This is the brief on Tamra Judge's lawsuit warning and RHOC drama. So the first update today centers on Tamra Judge's recent Instagram Q&A, okay? She jumped on to tackle some pretty intense accusations from Gretchen Rossi and Slade Smiley from RHOC, and also kind of clarified things with Shannon Beador. Okay, so Tamra really fired back at that claim from Gretchen and Slade about her sleeping with a boy band singer. She flat out denied it, called Gretchen a liar, said she never did, and she won't name the guy out of respect for his family, apparently. Tamra even said she's friends with his wife and they're both just disgusted. She stressed this wasn't producer planted. Gretchen tried the same lie years ago, but it got cut. She called their attempts to get back on the show lame, and yeah, hinted she's meeting her lawyer Monday about potential defamation. Things are heating up. Then, turning to Shannon Beador, someone asked about her intentions with Shannon's dad. Tamra agreed, yeah, she was trying to be direct and supportive, good intentions, right? But ultimately declared she's done trying, feels like she just can't win with her, so that friendship sounds finished. So overall, Tamra's pushing back hard, maybe even legally, on Gretchen and Slade's story, while drawing a clear line ending things with Shannon. Before we get into the next update, I need to check in with you all. If you're enjoying our little tea session, take a millisecond to hit the like button and subscribe to join the best reality TV community on YouTube. Done? Let's move on to next update now.
Okay, next we are going to talk about what Real Housewives of New York star Erin Lichy revealed about, her run-ins with the original cast. We're talking Sonja Morgan, Ramona Singer. This gives a pretty candid peek behind the scenes, right? Like how the reboot stars are actually getting along or not with the OGs. So Erin was on the Wellness Process podcast, and they asked her basically if she's friendly with the original RHO and women. Well, her answer about Sonja was interesting. She said Sonja never remembers who she is, even though they've apparently hung out before. Erin even recalled seeing Sonja out in the Hamptons, and Sonja just looked at her and asked, "Who are you?" Kind of awkward. Then there's Ramona Singer. Oh boy. Apparently Ramona lives in the same building as Erin's mom. So they bump into each other. Erin's mom mentions her daughters on the show, and Ramona just goes, "Oh, I don't watch that. It's doing terribly." Can you imagine? Erin said her mom was absolutely mortified. Yikes. Now, it wasn't all bad vibes. Erin did say Luann and Dorinda are a blast, and that Bethany's actually been very nice to her in DMs. So there's that. And finally, you know that rumor floating around about the new cast maybe merging with the Legacy ladies? Erin shut that down completely. She said flat out, it's not happening. Her reasoning kind of makes sense too. She feels like it would just end up being like two separate groups almost battling each other. Doesn't really sound like a fun show dynamic, does it? So this was today's update about Erin Lichy's comments on the RHONY original cast and Legacy rumors. Let's now move on to
next. We are going to talk about the Real Housewives of Miami star Alexia Nepola's surprising updates on her love life and, that upcoming reunion. So Alexia and Marisol Patton, they were just at the Page 6 Virtual Reality Awards in New York City. And they dropped some major teases about how Season 7's wrapping up, especially when it comes to Alexia's kind of messy personal life and what sounds like a wild reunion. Okay, the biggest shocker, it illuminates this total twist with her ex-husband, Todd Nepola. Now you'll remember, right? Todd filed for divorce, things got so bad they stopped speaking altogether, and he even threatened Bravo with lawyers over how he looked on the show. Yeah, that messy. But get this, Alexia just said they're actually doing good now and in a good place. She kind of explained it like, well, she doesn't know how to unlove someone, and even said she actually loves him. Wow. So moving on from that bombshell, Alexia and Marisol are really hyping up the RHOM reunion. They're calling it historic. Marisol literally said TV history was made. Alexia agreed, teasing a big bombshell that apparently shocked her when it happened, though she admitted later maybe she wasn't that surprised after thinking about it. She also mentioned, feeling like they never get enough time at these reunions to really get their side out. And finally, there's the tension with the newer cast member, Stephanie Shojai. Alexia is saying she didn't want to bump heads, but she thinks Stephanie definitely did. Why? Well, Alexia feels like being an OG and, important on the show, it was just a no-brainer that she was going to come after me. This kind of echoes what Stephanie said before about Alexia thinking she's the star. Anyway, the season finale, that's September 25th. So get ready for that 3-part reunion drama right after. So this was today's update about the latest RHOM revelations. Let's now move on to next update. Okay, next we are going to talk about what's going on with The Real Housewives of New Jersey. You know, all those casting rumors for season 15 and what Melissa Gorga is saying about the show's future. So things have been kind of quiet, right? Melissa herself called it a long pause, which is pretty unusual for RHONJ. She was recently asked about some reported test filming with potential new faces, specifically at the Page 6 Virtual Reality Awards back on September 17th. Now, Melissa played it cool, saying she can't confirm or deny anything about that footage, but she did tell Us Weekly that she and her husband Joe are totally ready to go, like, tap us in, she said. And she seemed pretty encouraged when Andy Cohen mentioned on Watch What Happens Live that they were getting close to a start date. So that's something. Melissa also got pretty serious about the casting itself. She really emphasized that moving forward, it has to be about real, authentic relationships. She thinks leaning on, quote, unauthentic relationships would be a huge mistake. For the show to really work, she said it needs to be a true group of friends, you know, which kind of highlights that whole ongoing family drama situation. Speaking of that test filming rumor, word is that veterans like Melissa, Margaret Josephs, and Dolores Catania were maybe involved, possibly with a newcomer named Michelle Barone, just to see how they all meshed. Interestingly, Teresa Giudice wasn't mentioned in that supposed test group. And when Teresa was asked about maybe not being included, well, she had a very Teresa response on SiriusXM's Jeff Lewis Live, asking, "Does a professor ever take the test?" Haha, classic. So this was today's update about the potential start of RHONJ Season 15. Let's now move on to next update.
Next, we are going to talk about that pretty explosive interview given by Bronwyn Newport's former husband, Brody Stringer. So, Brody Stringer, he talked to the U.S. Sun recently, you know? And this comes months after Bronwyn publicly called their one-year marriage ill-advised. Well, Brody claimed he was not in the least bit surprised that the fashionista went for a role on the Bravo series. He basically said, that's just how she's always been. He really didn't hold back, calling Bronwyn a social climber with a fake persona. Oof. He suggested she'll do anything necessary to stay in the spotlight. He also added that she now seems a little more calculated in how she's manipulating people. And, you know, this description, it really evokes what her co-star, Lisa Barlow, has claimed before. Lisa had accused Bronwyn of being fake, constantly lying, and pretty concerned with climbing the social ladder. A specific example of this kind of lying? It was right there in the RHOSLC Season 6 premiere. Bronwyn actually admitted that her current husband, Todd Bradley, didn't really buy her that huge $4 million necklace she claimed to have back in Season 5. Wow. But despite all that pretty harsh stuff, Brody says he wishes Bronwyn nothing but the best. He says he's happy she got what she wanted, though he does suspect she'll just keep looking for more and more and more fame. So, expect more drama there. So this was today's update about RHOSLC's Bronwyn Newport and her ex-husband's claims. Let's now move on to next update.
Next, we are going to talk about the latest updates regarding former Real Housewives of Salt Lake City cast member Jen Shah and, well, the possibility of her returning to the show. Okay, so you know Jen Shah had to leave the series back in 2023. That was after she pleaded guilty to money laundering related to that telemarketing scheme. She actually started her prison sentence in February 2023, but word is she might be released next summer, in 2026. And that timeline, it got fans talking, wondering if she'd pull at Teresa Giudice, you know, from Real Housewives of New Jersey, who did return to her show after serving time. But Andy Cohen pretty much shut that down immediately. During a Q&A on Watch What Happens Live, he was asked, and he just flat out said never. Like, he made it super clear he does not want Jen Shah back on RHOSLC. Now, interestingly, pretty soon after Andy said that, a message popped up on Jen Shah's Instagram posted by her management. It had this kind of cryptic photo of Jen blowing a kiss, and the caption, it said, "A respectful conversation has already been had with Bravo behind the scenes, and there are no hard feelings." Just a quick refresher on her legal stuff. Her original sentence was 6.5 years, but that got shortened a little back in March 2023. She's also talked about being committed to paying restitution, you know, making her victims whole, and she apologized during sentencing for hurting innocent people. So this was today's update about the future of Jen Shah on RHOSLC. Let's now move on to next. Next, we are going to talk about the deeply personal update Yolanda Hadid shared regarding her daughter, Bella Hadid's ongoing battle with chronic Lyme disease. So Yolanda posted this really emotional message on Instagram, detailing her daughter Bella's struggles over the years. Bella was actually diagnosed way back in 2013. Yolanda describes it as this invisible disability, chronic neurological Lyme disease. It really hits hard, affecting the brain, and it's something her son, Anwar, also deals with. She shared how watching Bella's struggle in silence just brings up this incredibly deep sense of hopelessness. It's just heartbreaking. Yolanda wrote that Bella hasn't really lived, but has basically just learned how to exist inside what she called the jail of your own paralyzed brain. Wow. That really illustrates the mental anguish involved. And the post included some pretty devastating images too. Bella in a hospital bed and pictures showing just a huge amount of medication she needs. It really demonstrates how intense her physical struggle and treatment are. But despite, countless setbacks, Yolanda praised Bella, calling her a relentless and courageous and a badass warrior. Yolanda also doubled down on her own mission, calling herself the CEO of My Health and vowing to keep searching globally for a cure that's affordable for everyone, something she's apparently been doing for 15 years. So this was today's update about Yolanda Hadid and Bella Hadid's ongoing fight with Lyme disease. Let's now move on to next update.
Next, we are going to talk about Dorinda Medley and Luann de Lesseps discussing the future of the Real Housewives of New York City franchise, specifically that potential RHONY legacy show. This all comes after the network decided to basically fire the entire RHONY cast after season 13. They brought in a whole new, younger group for a reboot. But honestly, some fans feel like the ratings are kind of low because maybe it's just not as authentic. So Dorinda was on her radio show, Reality Checked, and she confirmed she would absolutely love to do Legacy with her girls. She talked about how filming back then felt, comfortable and natural, and how that's what always made for funny TV. But here's the thing, both Dorinda and Luann mentioned how the whole Real Housewives world, like all the franchises, have gotten so much more fierce lately. Kind of dark even. Luann actually called the original RHONY a comedy. Remember how witty it was? Dorinda clarified, though, that it's not just about the on-screen drama now. She mentioned all the external banter, actual lawsuits, and people trying to destroy lives. She was like, back in their day, even after a really bad scene, they never walked away thinking their life was going to be over. And this really echoes what Bethany Frankel said back in May. She called the original show this alchemy of disaster, totally unhinged but real. She wasn't a fan of the reboot, calling it a glossy, curated version that tried too hard to please everyone and ended up pleasing, well, nobody.